Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Standard of living. The government makes a lot of plans for improving the standard of living of the citizens. Scarcity, poverty, and deprivation is also increasing every day. Nobody has the feeling that they are satisfied and contented. There is a Tamil proverb which says, Podum endra maname pon seyyum marundu, meaning that sense of contentedness is a golden panacea. This word enough seems to have disappeared from people's dictionary except when having to hear advices from elders. This is absolute poverty, not being able to feel contented and not being able to listen to good advice. For a man having 2 cups of coffee a day, to be able to have 4 cups of coffee is not raised in the standard of life. Same way, a man having 4 shirts to have 20 is not an improvement in the standard of living. To keep increasing the list of needs and necessities is not an improvement. However much you may earn, since your own demands are on the increase, the net result will be one of dissatisfaction, discontent, poverty, and penury. The government should plan only for those necessities as required to protect a man's decency and life. Roti, kapda, or makan, says a political catchphrase meaning food, clothing, and hearth as 3 essentials. To ensure the availability of these 3 for all citizens is the job of the government. For this to happen, even the richest should live at par with the poorest. Bring parity at the minimum level. If the poorest lives in a hut, let us all do so. If he has gruel, let us all have gruel. It is richness to reduce the wants. Just because you have money does not mean that you carry on feeding your wants. More the luxuries one gets used to, more will be the comparison and feeling of jealousy and hate and discontent. Just because one can afford the more facilities and luxuries one falls for, we subject ourselves to the sin of going against the dharma of aparigraham. Aparigraham can be translated as conservation and not surrendering to the sins of consumption, over exploitation, and denying others their due. Once we give in to this consumerism, we can never get God's grace. If human life has to be optimally utilized, we should not want an iota more than the minimum requirements for living. That is aparigraham. When you have more, it is for sharing, helping, aiding, and donating. That will give us jnana, nirvana, and release. Release is to become free of wants. Without knowing this, the rich go on accumulating more and more of everything: pants, shirts, appliances, shares in the market, bank deposits, lockers, jewels, landed properties, and so on. Looking at them, the not so well to do undergo the torture of jealousy. To take loans from friends, banks, and loan sharks is the answer. Then, when you are under the debt trap, look for illegal methods of earning. You end up selling your whole and soul to the devil. 50 to 100 years back, no one drank coffee. Everybody lived in a hut only. Ladies wore palm leaf rolled and inserted in a hole in the lower lobe of the ear as a pendant. For food, they had cereal porridge with some vegetables. People lived in almost similar dwellings. No one wore silks. If you decide not to have coffee and not to wear silks, from the money so saved, 5 families could live with equal felicity. The moment you decide that something is important or necessary, till that want is fulfilled, endless effort goes into it. This is an irritant for satisfaction and peace. Till recently, radio and telephones were luxuries. Now they have become necessities. The more you want, the peace of mind is affected inversely proportionally. Well being, happiness, peace, and contentness are all affected. When there is more external accumulation, it results in greater internal paucity and poverty. Standard of living is translated in Tamil as Varkai Taram. To live with devotion to God is really the high standard of living. So, it is not standard of living that is important, but the quality of life that is important. Simple living and high thinking is not to be looked down at askance. To keep on increasing one's economic needs is not to be thought of as the standard. All battles are said to be won or lost in the mind. In this case, under discussion, that idiom is very important. Make up your mind to improve the quality of your life, for which the battle has to be fought in your mind. The government may never listen to me, but I have to say what I feel sincerely about. If we really want to improve our lives, instead of spending more on the standard of living, we should be trying to bring down the so-called standard of life and improve the quality of our lives. Simple living. Nowadays, we hear a lot of talk about making efforts to raise the standard of living. Government says that all planning is for this purpose. Everybody does need enough food, clothing and accommodation. For this, the government should plan. By running after more and more materials, standard of life will not be raised. In fact, the standard or quality of life is not dependent on proliferation of possessions. Mana niraivu or contentedness is to be achieved in the mind and not elsewhere. Having increased one's own requirements, if you run from pillar to post with anxiety and aspiration, you can only end up increasing your own blood pressure with eventual collapse. We are seeing this in all walks of life. Our people are avidly copying the Western world for the satisfaction of the senses. But the Westerners who have attained to the top of their life are flocking to our country in hordes to get to know yoga, Vedanta and Bhakti. They come here because they realize that the senses are insatiable. If we do not learn a lesson out of this, it is simply our bad luck. If someone has a bureau full of clothes, goes to hotels and eats whatever his eyes alight on, has his house air conditioned, and so on, does not mean that he has achieved a standard in life. If his heart is contented, then he has attained a standard. The contentness can never be achieved by outer materials. As you keep accumulating things, we will aspire for more and more luxury goods. Seeing us, others will also start having this thirst. Those who cannot afford them will be either frustrated or spurred on the heinous methods. This leads to competitiveness, jealousy, hatred and heartburn. Till the urge is in you that you need this or you want that, you remain incomplete, poverty stricken. If your pocket is empty, you want some money. If you have a few thousand rupees, you feel that your requirements will be met by a few lakhs. The process goes on. In the case of crorepathies and millionaires too, by having more money we become poorer. As the possessions proliferate, divine aspirations dwindle. Kindness, love and tolerance and humanness vanish. In the so-called advanced nations, we see so much of depravity, meanness, purposelessness, drift, lack of morality and selfishness. We are inviting all that here too. with Purna Kumbham and fanfare. Modern life has come to mean thinking of unwanted things as essentials and then to get those things in search of money by hook or crook, to the utter neglect of self improvement. Where is the time for art, culture, literature, poetry, and so on, when all the time is spent on self serving process of amazing? We have lost peaceful life forever because we have forgotten the beauty of the word enough. Now nobody has fullness. In social life too, mutual love and respect is gone and replaced by jealousy and hate. If one man is showy, others will look down on him and some may envy him. But when the whole society is running after wealth and lucre, competition, comparison, dislike, jealousy, hate, and other added qualities multiply, leading to crimes. Can anybody satisfy all his wants? Mahatma Gandhi once said, "There is enough in this world for everyone's need, but there is not enough for even one man's greed." When everybody is greedy, then what happens? So it is better for the rich to live a simple life that is better for them and others in the society. In the olden times, that is how it was. For the Brahmins who were caring for the Vedas, the kings were prepared to give any amount of wealth. But they, the Brahmins, did not like to live a life of ostentation. They were enjoined by the Shastras to refrain from pompousness. They were not to develop love for materials. We can use this from some of the words in Tamil, Venkalapani and Vaira Olai, for example. All the utensils in everyone's household were made of baked clay. They were called so and so pot or pani. So, when brass utensils came to be used, it became a brass pane. Same way, the woman wore palm leaf ear ornament. Even the earrings of goddesses were described as having a pane olai or pane olai or palm leaf ornament. In Shyamala Dandakam, the goddess Lakshmi is described to be adorned with thoroughly thala bhatha thandaga busha viseshan vithe, meaning she who was wearing earrings made of palm leaf rolls. Later, even when the ear stud came to be made of gold and diamonds, the Olai word for palm leaf continued to be used to describe the ornament. In olden times, even the well-to-do would live in houses similar to others. People were wary of flaunting their wealth. The exceptions were those of the houses of kings and ministers. Some of the very rich businessmen of Vaishya caste would have some big residences. They benefited the artists in sculpture and architecture in doing so, but the Brahmins who lived the life of friends, guides, and philosophers to the society lived in modest accommodations only. Siruga Katti Peruga Vazha was the catch phrase, meaning construct small and live big. In all matters, the Brahmin was to live a simple life. If the palace of the king was a house of splendor, the biggest was always the temple. The house of gods, for the god, the best of everything was offered. When there was a temple festival, it was as though the whole town was celebrating a marriage ceremony. For individual beings, there was never a dinner party or a high tea as it is called. When people with the wherewithal could live a simple life, others did not feel envious. But later, when they gave up Vedarakshanam and village life and came to the towns and fell into the money hunting process, the mutual amiability in the society was the victim. To go back to simple living now is a Herculean task. Till Gandhi was alive, there was at least some talk of simple living. Now the idea has gone out of currency. We have to make an effort to at least turn people's mind towards such ideals. We have to live like that to demonstrate to others, to live a simple life, to do one's duties, to be happy by cutting down our requirements, to develop such a mentality. May God Chandramoulishwara bless us all. Be calculative. Kanakka irukkanum, meaning be calculative, is a phrase heard from the common man all over Tamil Nadu. Nowadays, there are many visitors from the Accountant General's office who do the audit of accounts in all government departments, and so I am reminded of this. In money matters, we are all quite calculative. Nobody has to teach us this. Do we ever pay anything more than the cost of the item? No, but we pay money for many acquisitions and are not calculative about how much we acquire. For our life, we need very little. If we work to earn only what is required for living, we do not have to try too very hard. We do not have to go to other countries in trying to earn more and give up our acharams, that is mind-ennobling traditional rituals. We try and earn endlessly for unnecessary things. The result is that we have no time for self-analysis, meditation, praying to God and helping others. We have no accounting of the time wasted in such pursuits. We waste time in earning money and then in identifying and locating the particular brand and in purchase of that item. Once purchased, the item loses its value till it is lost, or there is something else in the market, better or cheaper or with more facilities. Desire, purchase, disappointment, earn more, next item in the list is the endless cycle. Is this item necessary? Asking this question is being deliberately calculative. To bargain for an essentially unwanted item, using one's wits in doing so and purchasing it at cutthroat rates is not being calculative. Not only money, we should be calculative in using speech also. We must measure the words and optimize. This will save time to all concerned. By learning to speak measuredly with brevity, our minds will get a clarity and lucidity. The important points about speech are accuracy, brevity, and clarity, said as ABC of speech. That comes from an uncluttered mind. By optimizing our speaking, we save energy and obviate misunderstanding and heartburn. Even 100 use a phrase in Tamil, Kotti vidalam vara mudiyuma. It's a phrase in Tamil meaning that words once uttered cannot be recalled. Thiruvalluvar too says, Ya kavarayilum na kaka. It means that whatever you may not control, you must control your tongue. It has two meanings. To avoid the modern day disease of obesity, you must control your tongue. You cannot be too flippant in speech either. But today, the whole world is a talk show. All the newspapers are full of so many people saying so many things. Is anything being done in action? That is, next to nil. Just to confuse the issue, people talk high-falutin bombast. I touched on money and speech as two things in which you should measure your output. Third one is our action. In whatever we do, we have to be very deliberate. We should not do things just for the sake of doing it, especially wrong actions. You can list the things that you should not be doing and religiously avoid them, specifically actions that do not contribute to ennobling ourselves, actions that are intrinsically demeaning or are not useful to others should be avoided absolutely meticulously. More important than money, speech, and actions, control of thoughts is very essential. In a split second, our mind is capable of 1,000,000 thoughts. There is just no accounting of it. It should not be permitted to run uncontrolled. However much hard it may be, this is the most important area where control should be exercised. To think of one to the exclusion of others is ekagrata. As of now, such one pointed concentration is very, very difficult, but it can be done. To start with, give space in your mind to only constructive, positive, and good thoughts. With practice, we can make the mind into a powerful tool. We are very quick in identifying a scattered brain in others, and when it comes to ourselves, no. Ramana Maharshi says, look at your thoughts as you would at the waves of an ocean. Instead of putting the thought into words, instead of taking any action on the thought, ask yourself as to whom is the thought? Answer is to me. Then ask the next question as to who am I? The answer to this question is more important than whatever the thought. It is here you have to be kanakka irukkanum. Since money seems to be important in everybody's mind, I started with money and then added speech, actions, and thought as the 4 things in which we should be very careful about. Thiruvalluvar himself said, Porul irakku ivvulagam illai. That is to say, for a poor man, this world does not exist. But it is wrong to earn a lot limitlessly, spend wastefully, and accumulate avariciously. If you earn a lot limitlessly, all your mind, time, and energy will be utilized in making more of it. If you spend wastefully, you will run into the debt trap. If you accumulate avariciously, someone else is going to enjoy all that without you ever knowing it even. Contrary to this, earn with moderation and temperance, with a sense of sufficiency in your heart. Spend with care. Minimize personal expenses. Whatever you donate, dhanam, dharmam, should be considered as an income, as it is getting in to your account as credit. It is only by this that we become worthy of God's grace. Even poor people can give something. Actually, the poor man's pennies and paisas are more valuable than the rich man's thousands. You know how Sabari's berries and Sudama's rice powder were received by Sri Rama and Sri Krishna respectively. There are many such poor people who are noble, about whom the world never comes to know about because they are wary of publicity, name and fame. Every rich man has a dream of becoming richer while simultaneously is afraid of losing what he has already earned. He spends much ostentatiously, takes loans, and gets into a vicious cycle. Only rich people of the world have much loans. Poor people have no loans. This is funny but surprisingly true. If he leaves his pretentious habits, neither will he have so much expenditure nor compelled to take as many loans. The question we have to ask ourselves is that when there is so much suffering in this world, should I spend exorbitantly on myself? If we tie ourselves to the dictates of dharma, we will know that there are so many other rightful claimants to our money. Without denying ourselves the essentials, we can contribute so much more for the welfare of the rest of the humanity. Whether rich or poor, the question is to be asked is whether this purchase is unavoidably necessary. Can I not live without it? Did my father and grandfather not live happily without what I am now thinking as needed? Such control of expenses on oneself will enable us to give more. The more you give, like a perennial spring, more will flow unto you. Mahalakshmi's blessings will abundantly flow to you. In our country, they used to say, don't spend money as you would pour water. That is, to bring a sense of conservation and economy without being miserly. So the sense Kanakka Irukkanum is very much a prerogative in spending. This will enable you to be generous in philanthropy. In today's world, the other point which should be emphasized is being measured in speaking. When there is an infectious disease rampant, we take precautions, do we not? This is the disease of the modern times. In our books of morality, it says, Maunam Kalaham Nasti. In English, there is comparative injection. Speech is silver and silence is golden. This is very important. In Tamil, they say Maunam Gyana Varambu, meaning that silence is the border of wisdom. We may not attain to that limit, but we can and should control our speech. The newspapers carry tomes of pages of what somebody or the others have said. Nothing follows in action. Just talk and yet more of the same. There is no meaning in our wasting the saliva in talking about their talks. Let us take a vow of talking without hurting others. We may not be able to control our thoughts. It is all right. But speech can be controlled. We should not express in words whatever comes to our mind. I am wondering if I am myself running away with my speech on Kanakka Irukkanum. Progressively, there has to be control in our words, actions, and thoughts. A limit control, conservation, and optimization are essential in Manovaka Kayam, that is mind, speech, and action. If these three come under control, we will be very effective. Control is yoga. Not to be scattered is yoga. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Sankhya and yoga are the same. Sankhya is control. Accounting and audit are not only meant for money matters, it is meant for everything in our lives. To be absolutely accountable to ourselves is yoga. What started as a talk on worldly matter about being calculative has brought us back to the highest Vedanta. Tirumular in Tirumandiram says the right education is to differentiate between what is good and what is bad, what is truth and what is untruth. Understanding the divine essence of what is God is only available to the persons who is very calculative. Kanakku arindar kandre kana vonnadadu, Kanakku arindar kandre kai kuda kaatchi. Prefer character or wealth. I have to stay temporarily in many people's houses or makeshift accommodations during my travels. In some places, the kitchen will be rather incorrectly located. Smoke from the kitchen will spread up to the mandapam where arrangement for the conduct of puja by me would have been done. This would force me to go looking for a place where the smoke is less. Then I'll find that smoke is least in the kitchen and end up doing my puja next to the kitchen. I used to stay in villages, avoiding the towns and cities because, in the name of modern sophistication, I thought the people living in towns were ignoring religion. I used to think that villages would be comparatively more amenable to acharam, that is, religious do's and don'ts. I started visiting the towns because they kept inviting that I should visit them. As I started visiting the towns, I was quite impressed with the town people's involvement, keenness, and interest in all religious activities, even more than what is obtaining in villages. Village people are not as busy as the townspeople are. They have all the time in the world for all the religious requirements, but they tend to waste their time comparatively in the towns despite their being busy, despite office work, social service, games, and many opportunities for entertainment. They seem to be keener in religious matters than the villagers. At least they seem to regret not being able to fulfill all their religious duties. They are sticking on to some minimum daily anushtanams such as Sandhya Vandanam, periodical visits to temples, attending some pravachanam or religious discourse individually and collectively. It is heartening to see all this. The more you do such things, more will be the inner satisfaction. The very life in towns and cities is motivated by the allure of lucre. This passion for more and more money should go. All of us should be aspiring to remove our life qualitatively, to improve our life qualitatively, which does not mean necessarily money wise. We keep changing to jobs which give more salary or income and fringe benefits, more tension filled jobs, more pressures, more indulgence, leading to more diseases and more need for money, is all an endless cycle. We must genuinely make an effort to live a life of contentment and satisfaction. Even organizing a religious function could be done to make money. We must guard against such temptation. The mind can easily get sidetracked into inconsequential areas such as feeling proud about how others are appreciating the conduct of the function organized by us, or how people are appreciating our mastery of many languages, and so on. Because all these are staple deities for the human ego, called the Aham Bhavam, happily and humbleness and humility, we should do everything as an offering to the God Almighty, that Ishvara Arpana Buddhi can save us and help us to help others. I feel pathetic to think as to how, in the name of modern sophistication, we have let go by default many good things of our Indian methods. Many Westerners, after much running after the so called pleasures of the modern life, come to the conclusion that real satisfaction is still elusive. Their dispassion leads them to India in search of a guru to know about bhakti, yoga, and Vedanta. Whereas we Indians, ignoring the golden nuggets of Indian wisdom, are madly running after what the Westerners are discarding. The reason for this madness is Panat Asai, or the lure of lucre. At least now we must try and master this weakness if we are to reap the benefits of being born as a human being, that too in India. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.